The woman in the hoodie didn't look like she ran an $87 billion fund. But the Centurion card in her canvas tote said otherwise. Selina Wright stepped into the Sterling Grand Hotel on a crisp May morning, her sneakers whispering against the polished marble of Chicago's Michigan Avenue gem. She moved with quiet assurance, the kind that doesn't ask for permission, only results. At 41, with brown skin that bore the quiet weight of history, she looked like any other tired traveler, except she wasn't. She had never liked hotels. Not since the day years ago when her mother, also a woman of color, had been turned away from a suite she'd saved 6 months to book. The manager back then had smiled while saying, "We don't think this is the right place for you." Selina remembered the silence in her mother's eyes more than the words. Today, Selina had no intention of announcing who she was. Her mission wasn't to be noticed. It was to see who noticed her, and more importantly, how they treated her before knowing her name. She walked past the lobby cafe where espresso hissed and soft jazz played on loop, past business travelers with leather satchels and sharp suits. No one held doors. One woman in a floral scarf clutched her purse closer. She approached the front desk, and there he was, Chad Ellison, mid-30s, tan blazer haircut, too perfect to be spontaneous. His smile barely touched his eyes. He scanned her from hoodie to sneaker, then down to the tote bag slung casually at her side. He didn't see a managing director. He saw a black woman in faded jeans. Checking in, he asked, voice tight. "Selina Wright," she replied, her tone calm but unyielding. "Penthouse suite. 3 nights." She reached into her bag and pulled out the Centurion card. The black titanium caught the light like obsidian, but he didn't blink. He took it between 2 fingers, examining it like a counterfeit. "This card." Chad tilted it slightly, then chuckled under his breath. "It's black. Really black." A pause. A moment that hung just a second too long. His smirk returned. "Probably as empty as it looks, right?" Selina heard it. So did the older couple next to her. The wife's eyes widened slightly. Chad glanced sideways at a colleague behind the counter who gave the tiniest of nods and smirked. Selina didn't flinch. "Run it," she said. He swiped it with exaggerated precision. The machine chimed green, approved. His jaw twitched just barely, but instead of handing her the key to the penthouse, he clicked his keyboard a few more times. "There must be an error. The system's assigning you a standard room." Selina raised an eyebrow. "That's not what I booked." He shrugged. "System's final. I can't override." She took the key card without a word. No argument. No escalation. Just one slow, even movement. Her finger tapped her smartwatch twice. Then she turned and walked away, her presence silent but unmistakable. One strike. She passed a bellhop who didn't offer help with her small bag. Passed a suited man in conversation who lowered his voice when she walked near. At the elevators, a middle-aged woman in pearls glanced at her hoodie and said, "Staff entrance is probably back that way." Selina smiled politely. "No, thank you." Her room was on the 12th floor, facing a nearby alley instead of the skyline she paid for. The air inside smelled like lavender and lemon, almost too clean, too sterile. She placed her tote on the desk, took off her hoodie, and sat on the edge of the bed. It wasn't the downgrade that stung. It was the assumption-layered routine, quiet like snow. She'd walked into that hotel with the calm of someone used to navigating a world that too often forgot women like her belonged in its most opulent spaces. She wasn't surprised, but she was paying attention. Her smartwatch blinked. Recording saved. Selina opened her laptop and brought up an encrypted folder labeled Sterling Watch. She typed in a few notes. May 10th, 8:47 a.m. Check-in overt microaggression. Clerk Chad Ellison. Comment black as your skin, probably as empty. Result downgraded from penthouse to standard room. She sat back in the chair, letting her eyes scan the minimalist hotel art on the wall, a vague cityscape in beige tones. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment. Then she clicked save. Tomorrow she would test the system further. She would visit the lounge, the spa, the restaurant. She wanted to know whether it was just Chad or something deeper. But for now, she stared out the small window at the city that gleamed with opportunity and inequality in equal measure. The skyline glistened. But here behind a pane of glass, a woman of color sat in silence recording the truth, and somewhere deep in her mind, a quiet resolve settled. One strike. The card was accepted, but Selina Wright knew this wasn't about credit. It was about skin assumptions and what came next. The sterling grand might polish its marble until it gleamed and serve cucumber-infused water in the lobby, but beneath the soft jazz and velvet drapes, something less refined hummed beneath the surface. On this second day, Selina woman de mau tok shon kot gon sao gai guang mat khong, trang giem quiet jin kiem trak sem jin kien, jo la kan han, hey hey thong. She left her standard room early notebook tucked discreetly into her leather bag, smartwatch charged and set to record automatically when tapped twice. Today's agenda was simple 3 spaces: concierge lounge, rooftop restaurant, and spa. These were the places a true VIP would be welcomed without question. But Selina, despite managing an $87 billion fund, wasn't just testing access. She was testing perception. First stop the concierge lounge on the mezzanine floor. She approached the polished glass door just as a white couple exited laughing, holding complimentary mimosas. Behind the reception counter stood Kelsey Monroe, a young white woman in her mid-20s, hair perfectly curled, blazer pristine. Kelsey glanced up at Selina, scanned her outfit, still casual, still hoodie and jeans, and smiled with the thinnest professional courtesy. "Good morning," Selina said. "I'd like to have breakfast in the lounge." Kelsey's eyes flicked briefly to her screen, then back to Selina's brown face. "Unfortunately, the lounge is only for guests staying in executive or higher-tier rooms." "I reserved the penthouse," Selina replied evenly. Kelsey hesitated. "I understand, but the system currently lists you under a standard queen." Selina held her gaze, then nodded. "I see. No offer to double-check, no apology, no courtesy invite while we sort this out. Just a soft denial wrapped in beige professionalism." Selina turned away, not bothering to tap her watch. It was already recording. Next, rooftop restaurant. Noon sun filtered through the skylight as she stepped into the lift. The rooftop was buzzing with hotel guests, sipping cocktails beneath cream umbrellas overlooking Lake Michigan's shimmer. Trevor Lang, the host, a white man in his 40s with slicked hair and a tight vest, greeted her at the podium. "Just one?" he asked. "Yes," Selina smiled. "Window seat, please." Trevor clicked his tablet. "Sorry, those are reserved for, guests with reservations." He didn't look up. "I made one. Name's Selina Wright." Trevor's finger paused on the screen. "Oh." He gave a stiff nod, then gestured toward the back. "We have a quiet table available near the wall." Selina followed. As she passed, she noticed an older white man in cargo shorts and a baseball cap being escorted without reservation to the prime window table she had requested. The waiter approached moments later with a half-smile and asked, "Still waiting on the rest of your party?" "No," Selina said softly. "Just me." She ordered coffee. The server forgot cream. When she asked again, it took 15 minutes. Scene 3, the spa. Selina descended to the spa lobby at 2:45 p.m., greeted by scents of eucalyptus and lavender. The front desk attendant, Sabrina Miles, a tall white woman with a high ponytail and a clipped tone, looked up from her screen. Name, she asked. Selina Wright. I booked the deep tissue massage. Sabrina nodded slowly, then glanced at Selina's outfit, still that hoodie, still those sneakers. Her eyes narrowed subtly. We have a few options. There's our premier relaxation experience, or... She paused, tilting her head. There's a more affordable day spa option just a few blocks away. It's walk-in friendly. Selina blinked. I'll keep my original appointment. Sabrina's smile was brittle. Of course. Later, as Selina exited the spa, hair slightly damp from the aroma steam room, she heard Sabrina murmur to another attendant. Probably can't afford a tip anyway. That was strike 3. Selina returned to her room, her spine straight despite the weight of the day. She opened her laptop. The Sterling audit folder awaited. She added 3 new entries: May 11th, 8:35 a.m., denied concierge lounge access. Staff Kelsey Monroe. Claimed system error, no further assistance. May 11th, 12:15 p.m. Rooftop host Trevor Lang denied window seating, gave it to walk-in white male. Order delayed, service cold. May 11th, 2:45 p.m. Spa staff Sabrina Miles suggested cheaper spa nearby. Recorded comment about affordability post-treatment. She paused, reading the lines over, then tapped on the folder label and changed it. Sterling Audit became Sterling Pattern. Outside, the city buzzed with life taxis honking on Michigan Avenue, someone shouting near Millennium Park. The scent of hot dogs and lake breeze drifting faintly into her window. But here in this quiet room, a woman Damau was collecting truth, not to shout, not to fight, but to reveal. Her smartwatch blinked, storage nearly full. Tomorrow, she thought, would be the final confirmation. Just one more piece, one more door closed in her face, and she would have everything she needed. This wasn't about one person. It was the pattern she'd spent a lifetime walking through, and she was almost ready to show the world what it looked like up close. Some battles are lost in a shout. Others won in silence, with a well-placed file, a tapped wrist, and the truth. Selina Wright rose early the next morning, the sunlight cutting through the linen curtains of her standard room, falling across the desk, where her laptop still sat open. She sipped strong black coffee from a paper cup and watched the quiet flicker of her smartwatch charging. Today was the final step. She already knew the answer. This wasn't one man's bias. It was a polished, systemic indifference wrapped in 5-star service. Selina, a woman Damau, wasn't dressed any differently than the day before. Still in her favorite gray hoodie and clean white sneakers. No jewelry, no designer labels, nothing to telegraph power. That was the test. And this morning, she would request use of the hotel's business center, a standard amenity for penthouse guests. She didn't need it. She needed what it would reveal. Downstairs, the hotel lobby was already busy. The scent of roasted espresso mingled with citrusy polish on the grand staircase banisters. She walked with calm purpose past guests wheeling sleek suitcases, past a concierge who didn't greet her, and stopped at the glass doors to the business center. Inside, behind a sleek walnut desk, sat Tyler Grant, a white man in his late 20s with a lanyard, a corporate smile, and nervous energy. Selina stepped forward. "Good morning," she said. "I'd like to reserve a private meeting room." Tyler glanced at her hoodie, then her face, and typed half-heartedly into his terminal. "Unfortunately," he said, not looking up, "those are for platinum-level guests." "I'm in the penthouse," Selina replied. Calm. Even. Tyler frowned, then looked again. I don't see that in the system." He offered a tight-lipped smile, the kind meant to end conversations. "Sorry." Selina tapped her smartwatch, subtle. "Could you double-check?" He hesitated, fingers pausing above the keyboard, then typed more deliberately. After a few seconds, his expression changed. He cleared his throat. "Actually, It looks like you are listed under the penthouse tier. Sorry about that. He slid her a keycard across the counter with no further comment. Selina nodded once, took the card, and walked to the room without a word. The small conference suite was sleek and cold, all chrome and beige. She placed her bag on the table, took out her laptop, and began uploading files. Each recording, Chad's voice at check-in, Kelsey's denial, Trevor's dismissive seating choice, Sabrina's condescension, and now Tyler's momentary gatekeeping, slotted neatly into the puzzle. She named the final clip Business Center, gatekeeping error. Then, without hesitation, she composed a short email. Subject recommendation: withdraw from S. Wright to Veronica Chase. Chair, Apex Ventures. Attached is a brief audit of service inconsistencies and racially biased behavior at the Sterling Grand Hotel in Chicago. Based on the documented pattern, I recommend immediate reconsideration of Apex Ventures' investment in Sterling Holdings. I've retained full copies of all media and transcripts, ready for press if needed. Respectfully, Selina Wright, Managing Partner, Apex Ventures. She clicked send. Then she closed the laptop, sat back, and looked at the muted television screen in the corner of the room where a news anchor smiled next to a scrolling banner about quarterly earnings and corporate trust metrics. Selina smirked to herself. She gathered her things, stepped out into the hall, and found herself face-to-face with Margaret Sloan, the hotel's general manager. Late 50s salt and pepper bob red lipstick, too bright for morning. She barely glanced at Selina. "You're not supposed to be in this hallway," Margaret said curtly. "I reserved the meeting room," Selina replied. Margaret's eyes narrowed, then flicked to the badge clipped to Selina's hoodie. She didn't apologize. "Make sure you don't exceed the 60-minute limit." Selina smiled, slow and cool. "Of course." As Margaret walked off, heels clicking like punctuation marks of privilege, Selina stepped into the elevator. In her hand, her smartwatch vibrated once. Storage full, evidence secure. Back in her room, she packed with quiet efficiency. She left the room exactly as it had been, smoothed the bedspread, checked drawers twice. Then she stood by the window and watched a valet downstairs open the door for a white couple in designer coats, while ignoring a young dame bellhop who looked ready to quit. Selina whispered into the stillness, 3 days, 3 strikes, 1 system. Her watch beeped softly. Email delivered. Tomorrow the storm would begin. And she was ready. All it took was 1 sentence, 1 clipped, cruel sentence, and a phone recording. Selina Wright stepped into the lobby of the Sterling Grand at 9:14 a.m., the hush of elegance all around her. Fresh orchids framed the check-in desk, and the faint scent of bergamot floated through the air from a nearby diffuser. Crystal chandeliers caught the morning sun and scattered it across the marble floors like bits of shattered glass. But today, beauty would not protect anyone. Today was not about silence. Today was about accountability. She wore the same gray hoodie, same jeans. Her sneakers squeaked softly with each step as she crossed the lobby toward the front desk. She wasn't rushing. Selina never rushed. She moved with the unflinching grace of a woman Damau who had spent a lifetime learning when to wait, when to speak, and when to burn the whole thing down. Behind the front desk stood Chad Ellison, back straight, blazer, neat hair, immovable. He didn't see her approach at first. He was laughing with a colleague, some inside joke, his posture casual. Then he looked up and froze. Selina Wright was back. She didn't speak at first. She simply laid her Centurion card flat on the counter. It made a sharp, unmistakable click. Chad stared at it, then at her. His smile flickered. "Ms. Wright," he said, voice tighter than yesterday's smug drawl. "Is there anything I can assist you with?" Selina tilted her head slightly. Do you remember what you said when I checked in? He blinked. I'm not sure I follow. You held my card up, she said evenly, voice carrying just enough to be heard by the businessman 2 feet behind her. You looked me in the face and said, "It's black. Probably as empty as it looks." There was a beat of silence. Chad's colleague looked up from his screen. A woman in a navy pantsuit to the left shifted uncomfortably. That's not exactly how I. Chad began, half laughing, his voice pitching upward. Selina raised her wrist and tapped twice. From her smartwatch came a clipped, unmistakable voice, Chad's voice. It's black. Probably as empty as it looks, right? There it was. Silence flooded the lobby like a broken pipe. The click of keyboard keys stopped. A fork clinked against china in the breakfast lounge, and then nothing, just the hum of tension. Chad's cheeks flushed pink. I was joking. It was misunderstood, taken out of context. Selina met his gaze. No context makes that sentence acceptable. She turned her wrist again, and the watch stopped speaking. Her voice dropped a note calm as a lake just before the thunder. I represent Apex Ventures, the fund currently reviewing your parent company's $3.2 billion investment proposal. As of 5 minutes ago, she said, taking her phone from her pocket and tapping once. We're withdrawing all interest. The words didn't rise above conversation level, but they might as well have been thunder. The man in the navy blazer behind her muttered something under his breath. Chad stammered. His colleague stepped back from the desk like the counter might catch fire. From the left side of the room, a woman with curly hair and large glasses, a guest in workout clothes, lifted her phone and began filming. Another joined her. Within seconds, a quiet chorus of digital witnesses emerged. Chad tried again, voice now desperate. Miss Wright, there must be a way to resolve this. If there was offense taken, there was offense given, Selina said, repeatedly, across multiple departments, across multiple days. At that moment, Margaret Sloan, the general manager, stepped into the lobby. She spotted Selina and immediately began walking toward them, face taut with authority. Is there a problem here? She asked. No, Selina said, turning slightly to include her in the conversation. There's a pattern, and I've already sent it to the board. Margaret looked confused. The board of Apex, Selina said. They'll understand the cost of doing business with institutions that mistake prejudice for policy. Margaret's lips parted slightly, but no words came. Selina turned back to Chad and extended her hand. He hesitated, then handed her a folder. Your receipt, he said, and an apology. Selina didn't take it. You don't get to give me closure. You only get to watch. She turned and walked away. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't storm out. She walked with the quiet, elegant authority of someone who had planned the moment to the last breath. Behind her, the room buzzed, not with chatter, but the distinct click of keys, cameras, the ripple of awareness spreading. In the elevator, Selina exhaled, slow and steady. Her watch vibrated. Upload complete. When she reached her floor, a notification blinked on her phone. A video posted by Brianna Knox, her intern, young, brilliant, also Demau, had gone live just moments before. The caption was simple. This is why we still fight. Selina smiled without joy. It had begun. The internet moved faster than justice ever had, but this time justice rode its current. Before noon, the video was everywhere. A TikTok clip no longer than 40 seconds showed Selina Wright, Mot fu nu damau trong chiech hoodie, Xam va an mat kong koan nuong joy mat voi le tan trong mot san kach, san nam sayo. Chad Ellison's words played clearly, his tone half smirking. It's black, probably as empty as it looks, right? The recording cut cleanly to Selina's quiet reply. No context makes that sentence acceptable. It was captioned, "This is what power looks like." Selina Wright, systemic bias, sterling fall. By 10:34 a.m., it had over 1.8 million views. Selina sat in a cafe 2 blocks from the hotel sipping espresso while the world did what it does best: echoed, reacted, amplified. The screen of her phone was a cascade of push notifications, journalists requesting interviews, public figures tagging her in support, and private messages from strangers who saw themselves in her silence. Inside her inbox, a message from Veronica Chase, Apex's chairwoman, flashed at the top. Selina. Confirmed full withdrawal from Sterling Holdings. Press statement drafted. Proud of you. Selina didn't reply. Not yet. She watched a screen over the espresso bar. CNN looped the clip beside a stock ticker showing Sterling Holdings dropping 6 points in a single hour. The anchor's voice was polished and urgent. Calls for an industry-wide audit of hospitality biases sparked by viral footage from the Sterling Grand in Chicago. She left a $20 bill on the table, no need for coins, and walked into the light. The day had turned warm. A breeze lifted the hem of her hoodie as she passed a newsstand, where her own face, grainy from video stills, now stared back at her from USA Today. The headline read, "The wrong room when power walks in wearing a hoodie." Back at the hotel, chaos had bloomed beneath the polished calm. Margaret Sloan, the general manager, had locked herself in her office. She was fielding calls from the board of Sterling Holdings, from PR firms, from her own assistant, who now refused to speak above a whisper. She watched numb as her inbox filled with cancellation notices, conferences, weddings, entire travel groups backing out. Chad Ellison, pale and shaking, had already been escorted out by mid-afternoon. The hotel's HR director, summoned in haste, offered him a severance packet and a release waiver. He signed without reading. At 2:16 p.m., the Sterling Grand issued a statement. Sterile, clinical. Too late. "We are deeply sorry for the guest experience at our property. Sterling Holdings does not tolerate discriminatory behavior." But no one believed it. The story had outgrown them. That evening, Selina returned not to reclaim, but to close the circle. She walked through the lobby with the same steady step past the same front desk, now manned by someone new. She headed to the elevators where a young staffer, wide-eyed and soft-spoken, met her gaze. "Miss Wright?" she asked, voice low. "Yes, I just wanted to say thank you." The girl glanced down nervously. "You probably don't remember, but 3 years ago, Apex Ventures gave me a scholarship through a program for women of color. It was your fund." Selina paused. "What's your name?" "Brianna Knox. I'm interning in PR now. That video, I filmed it. I didn't know it was you, not at first. But then I saw how you stood there, didn't flinch. I had to say something." Selina blinked, caught briefly off guard. Brianna added, "I wasn't trying to go viral. I just thought, if people saw, they'd understand." For a rare moment, Selina smiled with warmth. "I remember your name now. Howard University." Brianna nodded, cheeks flushed. "You'll do fine," Selina said, then paused. "And thank you for seeing it." They didn't hug. They didn't take a selfie. Just a nod, a quiet pact, passed between generations. Selina rode the elevator to the penthouse. No longer the room they denied her, but one she no longer needed. She stood at the glass wall overlooking the city. Chicago glowed. Somewhere below, systems shifted. Her phone buzzed. A message from an executive at the American Hospitality Association. "We'd like to invite you to help design a new industry-wide training protocol." She tapped reply, "Only if you're serious, and only if it's not just optics." A second later, "We are, and we'll follow your lead." Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, not a storm, but a turning. Tomorrow would come with noise. Headlines, TV panels, maybe even lawsuits. But tonight, in a quiet room that had once been denied her, a woman Damao stood calm and whole, watching the world shift because she refused to lower her voice or her standards. Chicago woke slowly the next morning, wrapped in soft fog and the faint scent of spring rain on pavement. From the 34th floor of the Sterling Grand, Selina Wright stood by the window, hands loosely clasped, watching the city hum back to life. Taxi horns, pedestrian shuffle, steam from a manhole curling into the gray morning like breath. But up here it was still, silent, almost sacred. Her overnight bag was packed, placed neatly at the door. She wore a navy blouse, this time the hoodie folded away. But she remained unmistakably herself. Selina Wright mot ngoi pu nu da mau voi landa nao jam, nuhu go okacho an mat kong cho fep nghiango. Ngoi pu nu makan gan kach san kong nango sevach mat ho chi bang jung ban gai lu truva mot chiets smartwatch. Her phone buzzed again, another flood of messages. A segment on Good Morning America praising her graceful confrontation of institutional bias. A call request from the Department of Commerce, a podcast invite, an offer for a memoir. She ignored them all for now. Instead, she opened the encrypted folder on her laptop Sterling pattern and transferred the final files into an external drive. She labeled it simply Proof. Then she dropped it into a padded envelope and sealed it. Downstairs, the lobby was quieter now, a strange hush undercutting the usual hotel bustle. A different front desk clerk nodded politely. No lingering glances, no withheld keys. But the difference was not only in them, it was in her. People didn't see the hoodie anymore. They saw the name. She approached the valet, handed over her stub. A black Lincoln pulled forward almost instantly, impeccably clean engine humming like a lullaby. As she opened the door, a woman stepped out from a nearby bench and approached. "Ms. Wright?" the woman asked, hesitating. Selina turned. The woman wore a uniform not Sterling's, but from another boutique hotel nearby. She was black, mid-50s, with soft, tired eyes. "I just wanted to say, thank you. You said what we've been carrying for years." And they listened. Selina didn't say much, just nodded once. "I didn't do it alone." The woman pressed a hand to her heart. "But you did it first." Selina stepped into the car and let the door close. As the driver pulled onto Michigan Avenue, she stared out at the waking city. Billboards flashed headlines about inclusive hospitality, a panel of experts on screen debating bias training efficacy. But more than that, there was a mood shift, subtle but real. At O'Hare, she walked through TSA pre-check as if gliding. At the lounge, a barista greeted her by name. She knew these courtesies could be fleeting, performative, but even if only temporary, they were the result of something real. 3 days ago, she had walked into a lobby and been seen as less than she was. Today, she walked through terminals like a mirror reflecting back a truth the world could no longer ignore. On the plane, she opened her laptop and began drafting a new framework, a certification process for hotels that went beyond box checking. Not another DEI buzzword factory, but a real measurable audit. Transparent, accountable. A stamp of ethics. At the top of the document, she typed the name, The Right Standard. Not for her, for those who came next. Meanwhile, in cities across the country, whispers turned to action. At a hotel in Dallas, an assistant manager gathered her staff and said, "We need to talk about that Selina Wright video." In Seattle, a front desk clerk printed out new guidelines about microaggressions. In Miami, a hospitality CEO quietly scheduled a meeting labeled Urgent Training Overhaul. Back in D.C., Apex Ventures officially announced the cancellation of all Sterling Holdings negotiations. In its place, they pledged a $200 million reinvestment into minority-owned hospitality startups. Selena didn't issue a press release. She didn't go on television. She didn't even post a tweet. She simply pressed send on a PDF titled Framework Proposal Right Standard, Draft 1, and closed the laptop. The woman sitting next to her on the plane, a young Latina in a travel sweatshirt, glanced over. "Hey," she said, unsure. "Are you that woman from the video?" Selena smiled softly. "Probably. Thanks. I didn't know people like us could actually change something like that." "We can," Selena said. "Sometimes we just have to get mad quietly." The plane took off, banking east toward Washington. The clouds parted. Below, cities pulsed with movement. Inside one of them, somewhere, a woman, Damau, was checking into a hotel without fear for the first time in a long time. Not because they finally saw her worth, but because someone made them remember what it cost not to. Sometimes change doesn't roar in with banners or speeches. It walks into a room in worn sneakers, speaks with quiet dignity, and refuses to shrink. Selena Wright didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her stillness, steady, brown-skinned, and unapologetically present, was louder than the marble floors and chandeliers of any grand hotel. In her silence, people finally heard what generations had tried to say. There is a truth we often forget. Injustice doesn't always look like shouting. It often hides in the pause before service, the sidelong glance, the lowered voice behind a counter. Selena didn't come to fight a war. She came to measure the quiet patterns of dismissal, the small doors closed without sound. And with each recorded moment, she held up a mirror not just to a hotel, but to a system that had long mistaken courtesy for equity policy, for fairness. Her story reminds us that real power doesn't always need a platform. Sometimes it simply needs to be recognized. A woman, Damau, with a Centurion card shouldn't have to prove herself 3 times in a 3-night stay. But when she does, gracefully, purposefully, she leaves behind more than headlines. She leaves a standard. The lesson here isn't just about race or money or even hospitality. It's about assumptions, about what we think we know when we see someone walk into a room, and how often we're wrong. The truth is, we don't always get to choose who teaches us, but we do choose whether we're willing to learn. Like the lamp in a quiet window, a single act of clarity can guide others through the fog. Selena's refusal to let bias go unspoken lit a path that countless others had walked in silence and turned it into something undeniable. So take a moment. Think about the quiet kindness, the calm defiance, the unheard voices in your own life. Maybe they belong to someone you've overlooked, or maybe they're your own. And if this story stirred something in you, consider passing that light forward to someone still waiting to be seen.